Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place we discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name's Adrian. Join me once again, my co-host Tocayo Adrian. Adrian, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, dude? Wednesday out here. A lot of things to talk about the European legions of both El Tri and USMNT. So I'm ready to get rolling, dude.
Yeah, Wednesday, Leagues Cup round of 32 started with
hmm
Mazatlán versus FC Dallas and Pachuca Dynamo. We'll make our post 30 round of 32 video once that concludes, but a lot of exciting matches to look forward to here for round of 32 in Leagues Cup. But definitely, man, since last week, you guys seem to really enjoy our European Legion for El Tri and USA. We had an update last week with some of the bigger names that have already made moves: Pulisic, Tim Weah, some of the bigger names for the USMNT, and not too many for El Tri, but this week's a lot more El Tri heavy. There's been a lot of moves for El Tri this week, or potential moves, and a lot of rumors. And even so, for the USMNT, there's been more rumors for a lot of guys that we didn't expect to be moving, or that just kind of came out of the blue. Really like interested to get into it. So let's start it off with El Tri, man. What can you tell us about any of the moves that have happened here in the last week?
For sure. Before I guess I go down the list of some of these, I'm going to say odd names just because no one was expecting, or at least they were under the radar for the most part, or from the biggest news outlets. But I do want to make a notable mention where America and Jantos Laguna made a deal with Sporting de Gijón in La Liga B, where they're going to bring their under 20, under 23, and other young Mexican players on the first team roster to continue their development in La Liga B. If I'm not mistaken, Irarragorri is like he has some stake at Sporting de Gijón, I think, and that's why it was easy for Sporting de Gijón to make this deal, right? Because I think Irarragorri's
Gotcha.
group or Legi's group has some sort of stake on his Sporting de Gijón, and they have been sending Llantos players for a while now. The most notable one is Jordan Carrillo, who plays for the first team. Um, but on that note, there's another Mexican young player who's going to be playing for the first team at Sporting Gijón in Liga B, whose name is Esteban Lozano. He's a forward at America's under 23. If I'm not mistaken, he is 21 or 22 years old. He has trained with the first team in America. Actually, he was called up for the Leagues Cup. But I think after the Leagues Cup, he's going to move to Sporting de Gijón, if I'm not mistaken. I think he realized that having Julian Quiñones and Henry Martin in front of him wasn't going to provide him with a lot of outlets to, continue playing for
Right.
America. So he decided to make that move to La Liga B. It's the second division of Spain, but I think it's still better than playing at La Liga Expansión or MLS, or even just warming up the bench in America. So kudos for Esteban Lozano. We really hope that he makes a name for himself in Sporting de Gijón, and he's able to attract a La Liga A or La Liga's first division. I guess capture some attention from a La Liga first division team, even if it's a small one, so he
Yeah.
can get out there and get that experience, right?
No, that's a great move. I mean, we've
hmm
been talking about how Ed three needs to kind of broaden their horizons. Right, there's a lot of relationships between MLS and European clubs, and there's that constant transfer between that we always see. MLS always transfers a lot more players to Europe than the
Yeah.
MX. So having that between America and Santos with that the Sporting Gijon, that's just a great link up. I think that'll benefit both Sporting and
hmm
the younger players for Santos and America. And like you said, I mean, Lozano, he can probably play a season or two. He's still young, 2021, play a season or two there, and maybe if he doesn't go to La Liga, he could move to like Ajax or some other team right in Europe
Yeah.
where he'll further develop. So
hmm
yeah, that's a good move, man.
Not
What
too
else we got
bad.
on the list for us?
Well, I have another one that I have, which is Jorge Rubalcaba, who made a name for himself at the late of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. That's when he came up from the ranks in Pumas, and during the last maybe year, he has made he has had some decent performances and form for Pumas at Liga MX. I don't believe that anyone was following him. And then the interesting thing about Jorge Rubalcaba is not necessarily the team that he's going to, but that he is a Mexican American player. He was born in Rialto, California, so I'm pretty sure that he's getting scouted by both El Tri and the USMNT. I wouldn't be surprised if the USMNT has the advantage on El Tri just because they have a better relationship with young talent. Nonetheless, I am giving this. I'm putting him as a potential L3 uh, potentially three European Legion player just because he is a winger, and there's a plethora of wingers at the USMNT now that I wouldn't be surprised if they are willing to let him go to El Tri.
Right.
Jorge, Jorge Rubalcaba is going to Standard de Lieja in Belgium, so Uniper Pro League. I think it's a great move for him. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be a starter player. He's probably going to be a bench player. Even I wouldn't be surprised if he's the third string player for that specific position at Standard de Legia. But nonetheless, I think it's a great move. It's great for his development. He's young. Uh, he can definitely use that exposure to better talent competing in weekly for a position at Standard de Legia. And yeah, I'm excited for this guy.
Yeah, that's a good move. Standard Liège is a great team that we've seen in the Champions League in previous years. We see them European. They always are in the Europe spots, right, from the Belgium Pro League. It's normally between them and Genk, between the top two spots in that league. So, we've seen a lot of Mexicans go to the Belgium Pro League and have success there. So this could be another great move, especially for a team like Standard that likes to play young players and young talent. So that's only an upwards move for Pineda, or not for Pineda, for Rubalcaba, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
gonna be a good move to see him develop there. Who else you got for us, man?
So the next two are very interesting. I know that Liga MX isn't a league that is known for sending talent out from Mexico to Europe, but it's really I'm not sure if the right word is whimsical, but it's really refreshing to see that La Liga de Expansión, which is Mexico's second division, sending players out to Europe. We have two of them in the name of Diego Pineda and Antonio Portales. Antonio Portales actually played for Monterrey at the beginning of his career, and Diego Pineda was an America uh, academy player for a while. These two guys are 26 and 25 years old, if I'm not mistaken, so they're close to the peak of their career. They're both going to Dundee FC in the Scottish Premier League. While it's maybe not the best league in Europe, I think it's highly competitive in its own. It's also a good door for maybe moving on to the Championship or hopefully and ideally to the Premier League. It's a good training ground for those players that eventually move to an England or an English league. So these two guys are moving to Dundee FC. Antonio Portales is a center back, so that's great for El Tri. So if he does well, which he has played two matches, I think, right already with Dundee, he will be good competition for Cesar Montes and Johan Vasquez and Israel Reyes and Diego Pineda, who actually already also played. Has already three appearances with no, sorry. Yes, three appearances with Dundee FC and already scored one goal. So Diego Pineda is a striker that came from Correcaminos in La Liga de Expansión, which is it's going from Tampico all the way to
Yeah,
to
Dundee
Scotland.
out there. Yeah,
Exactly,
right.
that's pretty great. I'm gonna lie. So that's good news for El Tri. Having a striker out there in Europe trying to make a name for himself, it's always good news for El Tri. I think right now Lebote is safe. It's safe to say that Lebote has the spot, but it's always nice to see that there's another Mexican striker out there trying to become a better player and hopefully get called up.
Yeah, take note, Liga MX, cough cough.
Ex-
Liga
For real,
Expansión is
dog.
doing more for the
Hmm.
national team than Liga MX right now. I mean,
Yeah,
they're probably like those players are probably like, there's no way for us to move to Liga MX. There's no promotion relegation at this time. Hell, let's go to a small league in Europe and try to fight for a
yeah.
spot out there.
Mm-hmm.
So no, those are good moves. I mean, like you said, that league itself, I mean, can be used as a branch to move on to bigger league eventually. And it is a competitive league. I mean, they play similar style to Premier League and Champions League championship. Granted, not at that level,
Yeah.
but it's a similar
Mm-hmm.
style. So good, cool move, man. What can you tell us about Julian Araujo?
Well, as we all know, and as we anticipated, Julian Araujo was leaving Barcelona. We just didn't know exactly where, but it has been confirmed that he's moving to UD Palmas. And I think it's overall, I think it's a good move, right? There was he was no Xavi wasn't guaranteeing him any, starting 11 game time with Barcelona, and I think he was going to have tough competition with Serginho Dest staying at Barcelona and whoever the other second string right back is. So I think for him it's a good move just because for a couple of things. The first one is apparently Ude Palmas has the coaching staff came from Barcelona and they are huge into developing young talent. They're well known. I mean, this coach, I don't know the name of them, but I was reading on them, and apparently they are big in development, but also ensuring that their players learn the ways of how to play, with a control ball, how to come from behind, and carry that ball from not only being efficient at tiki taka, but understanding how to, uh, I guess, accelerate with the tiki taka and ensure that they have those fast transitions from the bottom of the pitch to the last third of the pitch. So that will be great for Julian Araujo in terms of improving his defensive skills, as well as honing in those attacking skills that we know he has. It's also nice because he's moving into a side who just got promoted from La Liga B, which means that if they're bringing him over, it's because they believe in him and they see him as a fit, a match, a good fit for what they're trying to achieve at Ude Palmas. And I think this is a good way for him to guarantee real, on game time at La Liga at the highest level of Spain. So to me, it's a good move in my books, even if it's a team that is not going to be fighting for the top 3 or top 5 positions or a European poll. Uh, it's just good for him in his development, right? He's super young, so by all means, take advantage of this, Julian Araujo.
Yeah, for sure. It's you're not moving to Liga B. You're moving to they're playing in La Liga, so it's going to be a
Hmm.
good opportunity for him. And just to
Yeah.
clarify one thing you mentioned, because this was kind of recent developments. So it looks like Sergio Dest is not staying in Barcelona. Apparently, they're
Oof.
terminating his contract, but we'll get into it
Damn.
when we start the USMNT part of this show. Um,
Fuck, man.
so who else is next for us, man?
Elmachin. It looks like Elmachin is back on Chelsea's radar. As we have heard previously, in almost a year ago, he was like the first choice that for Tuchel to come into Chelsea as he was losing Kovacic. But for whatever reason, Ajax rejected Chelsea's offer and forced him to stay one more year at Ajax. But since Chelsea is having a hard time securing a deal from for Caicedo, who's a player for Brighton and Albion in the Premier League. They are now showing again interest on snatching El Machin from Ajax. We have yet to see if that's going to materialize. I know there's, you and I know that there has been a lot of rumors going around El Machin, which makes sense. He's perhaps the biggest player right now, next to El Bebote at the Mexican squad, but it will be nice to see him Machin at a top notch team. I don't
Yeah.
know if this is the best time to join Chelsea just because of what happened last season. I know that a lot of fans, including myself, have some faith that Pochettino can actually do something better and bring back the team to those top 3 positions. But uh, I mean, it's not a lie. It's not a lie that it's a tough locker room at Chelsea.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely would be interesting to see how he performs at a top level team. So we'll be following that one closely for sure. Uh, I think it's time for him to definitely move to a bigger club. Not
Yeah,
that the club
yeah,
he's at currently is small by any means, but maybe a bigger league is probably better to say.
yeah.
Um, And then a lot of recent developments here with Chucky Lozano, right? I mean, what is the
Hmm.
latest with Chucky?
So let us with Chucky. I think let's start with the things that are certain. Napoli has told them that they want to renew him, but they want to renew him at an under, I guess, renew him with a uh, smaller salary. Right now, he's making 5 million euros or dollars a year, um, and they wanted to drop into 225 million a year. And the Chucky is like, I don't really have to take any terms. I can still, reject any other offer and be here. You still gotta pay me $5 million a year. But Napoli has told him, hey, either you renew with us right now and you lower your salary, or we're just gonna give you the boot. So on that note, it looks like MLS has turned on their uh, their lights and are inquiring about Chucky's intention to potentially move to MLS. Now we know that Chucky right now is 29 years old. He's definitely on the tail end of his peak as a player. I think at this point in time, he is realizing that he's not going to join a team that's going to compete for, uh, a Champions League title. I don't think he's going to be able to join even a team who is capable of challenging their domestic league, uh, just because he's not necessarily a Class A player, right? Even at Napoli, he was never able to settle as a starting 11 player. He really struggled. He was very comfortable at Eredivisie, but he's just another was just another one of those players who performs greatly at Eredivisie, but then when he moves to a bigger league or a bigger team, they flop significantly. So I think he's considering the option to move to MLS. The two teams that were mentioned that had high interest on him were the both LA teams, LAFC and Los Angeles Galaxy. But it looks like LAFC have dropped their interest in Lozano just because they recently signed a Spanish player uh, for 1.5 million euros from Sporting Braga, and it looks like they are waiting for next year's rule where they open up a new spot for a foreign player in MLS, and everything's pointing out that Lucas Moura will take that spot. So right now, the hottest rumor is that Los Angeles Galaxy are inquiring about Chucky's services, and I think it will be a good move for them if they want to rekindle that relationship with their fans, because we all know that they have had they're going through a hard time right now, and there's no lie that Los Angeles Galaxy misses Chicharito.
And misses a star in the midfield that can
Yeah. Hmm.
help produce goals because they're struggling
Hmm.
both in the
Yeah.
their local league MLS and Leagues Cup. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens there. It's going to be interesting to see developments for Chucky. Cool, man. Appreciate you informing us on those European Legion for Mexico there. Let's get into the second half of this episode with the USMNT European Legion update. Probably not as much as last week for USMNT, but there were a couple, decent moves here. The first
Hmm.
and biggest one we were kind of watching, have been watching all summer, is Musa's pretty much one step closer to AC Milan. He's
Nice.
Valencia and AC Milan have pretty much came to terms. He's already came to terms with AC Milan as far as his price, his salary, his wages, and all that's left is he arrives in Milan tomorrow, Thursday. Will be undergoing his medical this week, Thursday, Friday. So by the end of the week, it should be official. So he will be joining Christian Pulisic there at AC Milan if all goes to
Nice.
plan. So that's another big move for him. That's
Big move. Yeah.
definitely a vertical move from Valencia, who was struggling last season, to AC Milan, who's always constantly trying to battle for the Serie A title, right? So
Hmm.
it'll be cool to see him there in the midfield with Ruben Loftus-Cheek and playing alongside Pulisic. Um, Another move that kind of materialized this week was Austin Trusty, the Arsenal loanee. He's been loaned out from Arsenal for plenty of seasons. He finally found a
Hmm.
home. $6.4 million move from Arsenal to fellow
Nice.
Premier League, recently promoted Premier League team, Sheffield United, and this is a permanent move. I think this is ideal, man. We always talk
Yeah.
about these players that always ride the bench for these bigger teams that maybe step it down a little bit, right? You don't have to necessarily be at one of the big teams. Move down to a middle table, bottom of the table team, and that's also in the great league, Premier League, obviously one of the best leagues in the world. and Sheffield United look to have him as one of their key members and key pieces for this
Hmm.
Premier League season. So, assuming he plays well, man, I mean, we could have another American player playing constant football in the Premier League. So, good move for him.
Ideal, man. That's great. That's awesome. I really enjoyed this move for Aaron Trusty. I agree with you. It's ideal. It's like, essentially right on the spot for what PPG loves to see with American players at the Premier League, right? Sometimes you just gotta grind, dude, to earn your spot in the Valhalla of top class clubs in
Right.
football.
Yeah, no, definitely a good move, one to watch. Another one that kind of materialized this week, Haji Wright, one we didn't expect, when we've been kind of watching Haji since the World Cup, seeing where he'd land. And,
Yeah,
for him, I don't think he was necessarily as great a move as Austin Trusty's move. He's moving from the Turkish league from Antalyaspor to Coventry City, which is in the championship. It's an agreement for the transfer of 9 million euros plus 2 million euro bonus. And Coventry, is looking to add to their team and kind of secure Premier League promotion next season. They were close last season. They got knocked out in the playoffs, the championship playoffs. But between Turkey and the championship, it's probably a equal level, right?
yeah. Hmm.
Horizontal move there. It can turn out to be a very positive move for Haji if Coventry secures promotion and he playing Premier League next season. Or if even if they don't secure promotion, but he scores 20 plus goals, or 15, even 15 plus goals in the Champions League for a championship for an
It's not
American
bad.
player, would be enough to maybe secure him a move to a bigger club. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, decent move for him, and it being in the championship is also beneficial in that it exposes him to more eyes, right? More players, more
Hmm.
scouts, more teams watch the championship. So than the Turkish league. So that's beneficial at least for sure. So there we have Haji Wright.
Hashtag there to
And
Haji.
there to Haji, don't forget, yeah. One that we kind of mentioned in the Mexico part, Sergio Dest. What can really be said about him at this point? It was said that at the beginning of the preseason that he will get a chance to prove himself. Xavi was going to give him a chance to prove himself for Barcelona, and he did. He played some minutes in the American tour, but maybe that was just all talk to have an American on tour while Barcelona was on tour, right? To be able to sell more tickets.
Man.
Um, this has been a guy that's been great for the national team. Hasn't been good for his club since his Ajax days, and he's still very young. He just needs to find a spot where he can play. Even if it means going to lower level, lower league. This week, the big development has been that Xavi and Barcelona have pretty much discussed to terminate his contract, and it could be done this week. Some outlets are already reporting that it's been terminated as of already. So that hasn't been confirmed from all the outlets. So I haven't we don't want to commit to saying that, but it's been
Hmm.
rumored that they're pretty much going to terminate. This can ultimately lead to being a blessing in disguise for him. I mean, no club's
Maybe.
willing to pay his high wages at this time or his high transfer fee. So I don't know. What do you think? Maybe he'll be more appealing as a free agent.
I mean, to begin with, I mean, poor guy, man, right? He has had a horrible, last year. Ever since he joined Barcelona, we all thought he was going to be, you know, moving up in the ladder of performance, but unfortunately, I mean, he was. I don't know if he was unable to adapt, or if the coaches at the time it was, or I guess Xavi in this specific case just didn't know how to properly use him, or if you just realize that I need someone who is more well-rounded at that position rather than someone who's more on the offensive side of things rather than having a good defensive skills, I guess, or assets under
Right.
his
Hmm.
belt. I I really hope that he finds a spot where he can have consistent game time. To me, that will be my first priority. Right. I think it's pretty much guaranteed that he's gonna get a good payday no matter where he goes. Uh, so make sure that you find a spot where you're gonna at least compete week in and week out to be the starting uh, player for your team. I think a good move for him will be middle of the table in Bundesliga, maybe middle of the table in La Liga, or just going back to one of those top dogs in Eredivisie. for the time being, to reignite his career. But man, it's a tough one to hear.
Yeah, brutal 2 years there at Barcelona. 1 year he was there, and then he moved to loan at AC Milan. He also had a brutal year there. So it's probably best for them to part ways, both between Barcelona
Yeah.
and Dest. So yeah,
Hmm.
we'll see what happens there. Um, Another one that's kind of popped up on our radar that we thought was kind of settled that he would be staying with his team in the Champions League, kind of playing it out due to his injury, Tyler Adams. He's had that hamstring injury since spring, and that's kind of hindered his options. We saw Aronson move lead from Leeds. We saw Weston McKennie go back to Juve. So he's been finding it difficult to secure a move out of Leeds just due to that injury, right? But recent developments from the Premier League have surfaced. Aston Villa currently has inquired about him. They're awaiting an answer from Tyler Adams as he's kind of currently weighing his options. Unai Emery's side is willing to trigger that $25 million release clause. And interestingly enough, we mentioned Chelsea was interested in elmachin. Chelsea's also interested in Tyler Adams for that same position.
Hmm.
So they're looking at Tyler Adams and and Machin to replace as a possibility from Caicedo if they're not able to
All
get
right.
Caicedo. So that might come down to who's gonna who are they gonna go for? And if Tyler Adams doesn't accept the Aston Villa offer, I personally, as a Chelsea fan, would want to see him at Aston Villa just because I think he'd get more playing time there, right? Than
Mhm.
at Chelsea. And we saw what was happening with Christian Pulisic, who was also injury prone, just like Tyler Adams. So maybe not the best place to kind of go get game time at Chelsea at this time,
Mhm.
especially in their
Yeah.
transition. Nottingham Forest has also expressed interest. They've also gone as far as to talk with Triple G, Greg Berhalter, regarding Adams, getting his opinion on Adams. So he's got a lot of suitors lined up. It's just a matter of where he'll choose to play, and it's looking more and more likely now that he won't be playing championship football with Leeds next year. He'll be joining another team. So we'll be keeping an eye out for Tyler Adams, who we know he's quality. He was Leeds' best player last season, and he only played like half the season due to injury. So
Yeah.
we'll definitely keep our eye out on that. Um, and just to wrap it up, man, as before we go, kind of still in limbo here. Probably the last big name for the USMNT who's still looking for a move is Balogun. Um, Arsenal seem to have priced out many of his suitors. Inter Milan was kind of the main one who was interested in purchasing Balogun. They offered 40 million plus $5 million bonus, and Arsenal was steady that they wanted at least 50 million. So that kind of dissuade Inter Milan from pursuing him, which is unfortunate because I think he would have
Mhm.
done really well at Inter as their number one striker.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the biggest rumor recently is that apparently Monaco from Ligue 1 is interested in him and bringing the striker back to that league. So we'll see what happens, man. Uh, would you mind seeing him back at French league?
No, I don't. I don't mind. I think at this point in time, he's gotta take any chance he has. Right. Any chance he has to play at a bigger club, whether if it's at Ligue 1 or if it's in Serie A or wherever. Ideally, we would like for him to stay at Premier League and fight for a spot at one of those. Even if it's a middle of the table club. But man, if you're not gonna find any chances in Arsenal or no other Premier League side is willing to take a chance on you, sometimes you just gotta take, uh, you just gotta open the doors that are knocking and follow through them. You'll never know. I mean, he can probably has an outstanding season at Monaco like he did last year with Stade de Reims, and garner attention from the likes of not even Arsenal, but like big teams in Premier League. Tottenham, well, big teams. Sorry, not Tottenham. uh, but the United, uh, Chelsea again reignite interest from the Milan sides, or hell, even why not Atletico de Madrid, something like that. You know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely. Just move somewhere we can play and get game time.
Hmm.
I think it's more important though for a striker to move somewhere at least middle of the table and up, right? Because I mean those lower table teams struggle to score goals more often
Yeah.
than not, so they can be hell for a striker. So I think Monaco, a team that's always in the top 4 or 5 in the league, it would be a good opportunity for
Hmm.
him. So we'll see, man. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that one for sure. Man, as we wrap this episode up, dude, where can our listeners find us?
They can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Puro Pinche Gol. We post stuff every now and then.
Yeah, be sure to follow us on your preferred social media platform of choice, and make sure you leave a comment below. Let us know which of these moves are you most excited for. Which do you, as a Mexico fan, if you support Mexico, what do you think of this move between Santos and America and Guillon out there in League La Liga B? Um, are you excited for it as we are? I think it could be a good opportunity for a lot of these younger players to go
Yeah.
get game time for sure in Europe. And what about Balogun? Where do you see him fitting in? Where do you see? What do you think of yunusmusah in Serie A with Pulisic? We definitely love reading y'all guys' comments, interacting with you guys there in the comment section. So be sure to drop a comment with us. Adrian, man, been another great one with you, brother. We'll be sure to keep an eye out for any further trades going on. And I just realized that Messi scored in the 7th minute in Leagues Cup, so we're probably going to go watch that after this.
Come
Oh man,
on, man. All right.
I'll see you next one, man.
Always a pleasure to take it easy.
Likewise, man. See ya.